Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 8, The Things We Bury, and oh my god, this episode was just amazing. I loved it. By far the best episode of the season. I was so into this episode. And one of the things I love this episode did is it actually got us pumped for Agent Carter and made us realize that Agent Carter is basically going to be amazing and it's going to perfectly fill the gap for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I cannot wait for the mid-season finale. I know it is going to be amazing. And let's just get to it because I love this episode. So, we start off with a flashback in Austria 1945, and I really like that they showed a lot of flashbacks in this episode, definitely. I hope they do that with the next episode as well, because it really gets us, hyped up for Agent Carter, which I am very happy about, because Agent Carter, of course, will be replacing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for like 2 months, and it really shows that Agent Carter, it's a show that needs to happen. Like, it needs to happen now, so we can find out, some stuff before we watch, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, Whitehall's interrogating someone who was digging in the ground, and the man says he heard the same stories that they had heard. The obelisk is there, and obviously he has the man, and obviously once the man touches it, he dies, because that's what happens if you touch the obelisk. And Whitehall brings in another woman, Asian, like the man before her, and they force her to touch the obelisk, and he reacts, but she does not die. So Whitehall wants to study her and kind of find out what's going on here, and another Hydra soldier comes in with news of Red Skull's death. This is when Red Skull had just died, and of course Captain America killed him, and they cage the woman and prepare to leave. So that was a perfect way to start the episode. I thought that was really awesome, and I was already really into the episode. So present day, Whitehall is disappointed with his scientist's progress studying the obelisk. He brings in the doctor, and the doctor offers information on the obelisk, claiming to be an expert, and Whitehall assumes that the obelisk is a weapon. That's what he thinks it is. So, but the doctor says it's actually a key, and it only kills to protect itself. So basically, it only kills people whose it falls into the wrong hands of. So basically, if it's, if someone who touches it can do harm to it, then it will kill them. So I think that's interesting how we kind of find out that it kind of has like, sort of like a mind of its own, which I think is interesting. So he calls in the Divner and says it will do something much cooler if brought to a specific place. And we know where that is, because Coulson is headed to Hawaii. Now, of course, they found out last week that that basically the painting had the map was basically, where they needed to go, and they're going to Hawaii, and they're still looking for Grant, interrogating Bakshi, because as they know, Grant did get, they know that Grant escaped, and they want to know where he went, and Coulson thinks they need to stay ahead of the enemy by finding the city before Hydra does. And when he said that line at the end of last week's episode, I was definitely really looking forward to it. And Bobby has finally gone back talking. Though he hasn't really said much. He's barely really said anything, Hunter and Mac are, basically Lance and Mac, they're discussing concerns about Coulson's health. So Gemma enters and changes the subject to the interrogation, and Bobby tries to plant doubt in Bakshi's mind about being brainwashed, but Bakshi says he's part of a grand history going back to Red Skull. And Bobby leaves and shares info with the others, and as then Melinda comes in and saying that she thinks that Whitehall has first-hand knowledge of Red Skull, because Bakshi calls him a disciple. And of course, I'm thinking, why we keep talking about Red Skull here? I mean, Red Skull's dead, it kind of seems irrelevant here. And then we see Christian, Grant's brother. He's in his vehicle, arriving at his family's summer home, and of course, at the end of last week's episode, we found that Grant's going after him, and like I predicted, he is, because he's speaking to what sounds like a mistress, when Grant bursts through the window, throws him out of the car, and that was awesome. I mean, Grant really is an awesome villain. He's doing a great job. Whoever's playing Grant, you're doing a great job. Just continue your amazing work, because you're doing a great job as this villain. You're just fantastic. So the team, Coulson's team arrives in Hawaii, and Coulson gives Trip and Sky a very specific set of cloak and dagger sounding instructions. And he sends Fitz to develop muscle memory to activate a device in the field. And meanwhile, Bobby and Lance are discussing Bakshi. Basically, Bobby believes, basically, not believes, that's not a word. Bobby believes that Bakshi crossed Whitehall at some point, and is working with Whitehall for a second chance. So Gemma brings one of Agent Carter's old files to Melinda, and the file refers to Werner Reinhardt, who is said to be Whitehall's commanding officer. But it's actually a name that Whitehall goes by, so that's really interesting. And I'm just like, what exactly are you saying? What's going on here? So we flash back to 1945, and we see Agent Carter. She enters the interrogation room with Whitehall, and Whitehall wants a deal. He offers information about a way to save humanity, information on all the items Carter and her team recovered from his hideout, and he talks of a myth from the east of a star that fell from the heavens, and angels come with gifts to save humanity. And he says he's based his life on the story, but the angels were actually conquerors. So that's really interesting what's going on there. I mean, that definitely is really interesting. And I mean, I definitely think that after this episode, Whitehall, you really see how much of a threat Whitehall is in these flashbacks. That's why I love these flashbacks so much. They really show how much of a threat he is. So in present day, the Doctor corrects Whitehall, saying those angels that, he said were actually here to end mankind, with a few special exceptions. He says those who, he says those special few would use the diviner as a key to open the temple in the city. So Whitehall is hesitant to trust the Doctor. He doesn't really know if he should trust him. But the Doctor says he just wants to be reunited with his family in the afterlife. That's what he wants to be. That's all he wants. He wants to be reunited with his family in the afterlife. And he wants to be reunited with Skye as well. So, as long as that happens, he'll be fine with that. That's basically what he wants. And we do see in this episode that the Doctor really is not the villain here. Whitehall is the villain. Because the Doctor, we see, I'll talk about why the Doctor isn't bad in a second, but Grant has his brother bound. He has him walking through the woods. This was just awesome to watch. He literally just, completely interrogates him. And they're arguing with the senator. Basically Christian is saying that he rescued Grant. And the senator, he says that their parents were awful, but they didn't like the match. And Grant says he takes responsibility for his actions. He picks up a shovel, and Christian realizes that he's still thinking about the well, and says it was Grant that nearly killed their brother Thomas. And he says their parents buried the well, but Grant says they just covered it up. So Fitz is working on the device, but he's still not able to perform the task in time, and he thinks Coulson is testing him because of this. But Tripp says to trust Coulson, because of course, last week, what ended up happening was, they didn't really know if they could trust Coulson because of what he was doing. But they leave for the Australian outback. So Melinda's team is going through Carter's SSR files that they never got integrated into S.H.I.E.L.D., and therefore they're never seen by Hydra. So these are very classified documents. They need to be careful of this because Hydra has never seen these before, and I thought that was awesome that we find that Hydra's never seen them before. So Gemma recognizes Reinhardt right away as Whitehall. She recognizes him right away because the photo is exactly him. And when I say it's exactly him, it's not just some guy that looks like him. It is exactly him. So she knows right away that something's going on here. So Melinda discovers that Whitehall grew up in an old prison called the Rat and must have never found a way to reverse his aging. So we find out what's going on because then we go to 1945 where Agent Carter tells Reinhardt that he'll be left there, and we see time-lapse of his captivity. And the cell changes around him. And in 1989, he's now elderly. He's being transferred at Alexander Pierce's request. The agent there to perform the transfer hails Hydra. He says him hail Hydra and says that the woman is still alive. They take him to Austria where some village elders are. And the woman from 1945 hasn't aged at all. She looks like she's in her 20s. So he plans to experiment on her. And, so that was really crazy. So, Melinda's team, discovers that Reinhardt changed his name when he changed his age. So Lance leaves with the file and gives it to Bobbi to use it in interrogating Bakshi. And Bakshi tries to turn it on Bobbi by bringing up the things Bobbi did to integrate herself to Hydra. While undercover, Bobbi reveals what they know about Whitehall. And Bakshi slams his face into the table to break a cyanide capsule in his cheek, and that was really crazy what's going on there. So at least he is kind of helping them in a sense, but not really. He's not really helping them very much at all. He kind of is helping them, but, not by much, really. So I thought that was definitely very crazy what's going on there. I don't know really what to say there, but that was definitely really crazy. So Grant and Christian, they're still arguing about who was responsible for putting Thomas in the well. Now Christian's continuing to dig, and he suddenly hits Grant with the shovel, but Grant catches him before he gets away. He pulls off the cover to the well and forces Christian to look down. He threatens to throw him into the well, which I honestly thought he was just going to throw him into the well because I thought he was just going to go that crazy on him. But that's not what he ends up doing. He says that Thomas was the only one their mother didn't torture, and he wanted Thomas to feel their pain, but didn't have the courage to do it himself. And Grant says that's all he wanted to hear, and helps Christian up and hugs him, and Grant says it's time they went home. And I was like, okay, so what's exactly is going to happen now? I didn't know really what's going to happen there, because it seemed short very abruptly. Like, I'm like, okay, that's what's going to happen. That's really weird. So then we get a really badass scene with Coulson. This is when the episode just got amazing. This was amazing what happened here. I love this scene. Just awesome stuff here. Coulson and team, they're gearing up to go into the field to infiltrate a satellite system, and Coulson says something feels off because as they enter the satellite station. The Hawaii site goes offline, their 6-minute window begins, communications become jammed, and they're ambushed by, and basically, he tells them what they need to do, that they need to get there first, and they need to get there before Hydra, and communications, they're becoming jammed, it's not working, and they're ambushed by Hydra, and this scene was just fucking awesome. I love this scene. Oh my god, so many amazing things here. And the thing I really loved about this scene was we haven't a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. versus Hydra in a while, so it was really cool to see this. The last time we saw this was like episode 5, and I thought this was just so awesome. This episode blew episode 5 out of the water. It really did. Because Trip is then shot while protecting Fitz, and I'm like, please don't die, because here's the thing. If Trip would have died, I would not have been happy. We know nothing about Trip, so I think we're going to find out more about him, but we barely know anything about him. He barely does anything anyway, so I'm kind of thinking this is hinting that he is going to do more. So the doctor shows up and offers to help, and I love the way he just revealed. He's like, I'm a doctor, I can help you. But of course, I wasn't really sure if they should trust the doctor right now. So he begins working on Trip, and he calls Coulson Phil, and then realizes he shouldn't have done that. And with Trip's life in his hand, he forces Coulson and Fitz to disarm. The doctor hints to Coulson about the city, and he says whatever's in the city, his baby will be in the center of it. And Coulson says that, that will happen. He says it's all he really cares about. However, when Coulson calls her Sky, the doctor gets angry and says that's not her name. So I'm like, okay, so what's Sky's name here? I don't really know what Sky's name is. I don't know what's really going on there. But he tells Coulson how to save Trip to keep him busy while he makes his escape. The system goes online and Sky begins her work and Trip stabilizes. Luckily, he's okay, which I'm happy about because I wouldn't have wanted him to just randomly die about that. So Whitehall's talking to someone about second chances, and we go back to the flashback where he is dissecting the unaged woman, and then him de-aging, like he gets suddenly younger. And we find out how, because he tells his man that he took everything he could from the woman, and the person he's speaking to is Grant. And Whitehall reveals a news report on a murder-suicide with Christian and his parents. So the report plays Christian's confession to Grant as if it was a suicide note. So that's really weird what's going on there. Maybe, Christian my question is, did Grant, kill him or something? I don't know what that's really trying to show, but that definitely is going to be very interesting to see what's going to end up happening there. I don't know what I can really say about that, but that's going to be interesting, definitely. I don't really know what to say there. And Lance then questions Bobbi's motivations while questioning Bakshi, and this was hilarious. They argue about Hunter's, they argue about Lance's inability to trust Bobbi, and they end up having sex in a van. I'm not kidding. They're just randomly arguing, and then they have sex. I was like, most random sex scene ever, but I still thought it was absolutely hilarious. They worked that scene perfectly. These two, I love them arguing. I love seeing their arguments going on. I love seeing the two of them not really trusting each other. It's hilarious to watch. They're doing a great job, definitely. That's these two. I love all the hilarious stuff that's going on with them. Great stuff there. I love that stuff. It's hilarious to watch, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. My prediction is that they're going to get back together because they just had sex. I'm pretty sure that's basically them getting back together. So Coulson returned with Fitz, and Sky shows that they've been mapping the Earth. The program finds a map for the city, and now they're going to find the city, I guess, because now they found it before Hydra does, which I thought was awesome because, of course, S.H.I.E.L.D's mission was to find the map before Hydra did, and now they have. So I was really happy about that. I'm like, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D, you did it. So, the Doctor returns to Whitehall as he's talking to Grant, and Grant says he knows, he knows basically Coulson's team like family, and this is going to be very interesting because what I'm thinking Grant's going to do is make them think he's on his side, but then betray them. And that's going to be really cool to see what happens there. But then we get probably the biggest twist this episode. We go to the younger Doctor, and we find out that the girl that was killed by Whitehall was his dead love, and he promises to do to him what he did to her. But my question is, does the Doctor know that Whitehall killed this girl that he loved? Did he know this about? Did he know this? And I think it definitely is going to be very interesting to see that, because I don't think really he knows that Whitehall was the one that did this. And if that's true, then that's going to be very interesting, especially if he finds that out, very quickly. That's going to be really cool to watch. But overall, guys, this episode was amazing. A lot of things I want to talk about, though, before I end this review. Basically, first thing I want to talk about, this episode was so good with the flashbacks, because now we know pretty much everything we need to know about Whitehall. We know that Whitehall definitely is the biggest villain here. We know that he is very malicious. He's a very sneaky villain as well. I mean, no one really thought what he did till now, which I think is really awesome. I really love the reveal of what he did as well. It's very well done, in my opinion. I would have never suspected that Whitehall, de-aged himself. It does kind of make sense because he didn't change from then till now. Plus, if he was really that old in 1945, he'd be dead now. So it makes sense why he hasn't died yet, and it makes sense what's going on there. The Doctor, I don't think, trusts Whitehall at this point. I think the Doctor, if he finds out what's going on with Whitehall, then he's not going to trust him. And what I do like is that the show is slowly trying to get us to basically show that Whitehall is not going to trust the Doctor anymore, which I think, the Doctor, is going to find out what Whitehall did. That's going to be interesting to see. And it's showing us also that we can trust the Doctor. The Doctor's not a bad guy anymore. He just wants his daughter back. He just wants Skye back. Clearly, there's something else going on, though, because he yelled at Coulson when he said that's not her name. So, my question is, what is he really trying to say there? I mean, he's saying, oh, that's not her name. So, I don't know what that's trying to show, but that's going to be interesting to see, I guess. Do you think that, the other thing I love, this episode really makes us realize how awesome Agent Carter is going to be. Do you think that they're going to show some of this on Agent Carter, possibly? Maybe they're going to connect what's happening on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Carter? I'm assuming that's what's going to happen here, is that they're going to connect that somehow to Agent Carter, because you can't just randomly start Agent Carter and then do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, it has to be what's going on. That has to connect to that, definitely. So I'm looking forward to that, definitely. I think that's really showing that Agent Carter is going to be awesome. Is S.H.I.E.L.D. going to get to that map before, is S.H.I.E.L.D. going to get to where they need to go before, Hydra does? That's going to be interesting. We got that whole race going on, which I love watching. I think it's great to watch that. I love seeing this race happening. It's really awesome to watch. That's awesome to watch. I love that stuff that's going on there. What's going to happen also with Lance and Bobbi? It's so funny to watch what's going on with them, especially that they just randomly had sex. I find that hilarious that they randomly had sex. They didn't even think about it. They just randomly had sex, and I thought that was hilarious. I think that definitely shows that the two of them are definitely going to get back together. I don't know if they're going to. We'll have to see. What's going on with Christian? Did Grant kill Christian or something? I don't know. But I think Grant is going to make S.H.I.E.L.D. think that he is loyal to them and that he's not going to be. Also, Trip, do you think Trip's going to have more to do? I would like to see Trip do something, because I know a lot of people have been complaining about it. I personally haven't been, because Trip's just been staying in the background. It hasn't really been a problem of mine. But after what happened to him, they need to give him more, definitely, because if they're going to make his death such a, if they're going to make, him getting shot such a big thing, then they need to give this guy more to do, because I was very worried about him, definitely, because I wanted him to have something to do on this show, and he doesn't really have too much to do. But that's basically my review. I know this was a short review, but that's basically all that happened in this episode. This episode, there wasn't too much that was going on. It was basically a building episode, which I definitely love. We're building to that finale, which I know is going to be fucking amazing. I can't wait to see what that finale has in store for us. It looks fucking awesome. I can't wait for it. It's going to be so intense, and I can't wait to see everything that's going on there. But let me know what you guys saw of this episode. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Sons of Anarchy, which I'm so pumped for, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.